Hey guys, ED here. Just wanted to talk to you real quick, let you know that in this episode I was in a different studio working with one of my best friends, and we were dog sitting at the time. We had a buddy that was out of town, and everybody was celebrating the 4th of July, so there will be a little bit, couple minutes towards the end, where you can hear the dog chewing on a bottle. I tried to cut it out as best as possible, just you guys know that life happens. So I appreciate it. Thank you. We'll do the best to edit it out, but appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. It's good to see all of you flyers, riders, and writers out there. I just like to say happy 4th of July. Happy birthday, America. You might hate it. I might hate it. We'll never know. But here we are. Happy 4th. Let's get into the show. I have a guest joining me today, one of my best friends, and we're going to be talking about this together. He's been awesome and has quite a few things to say. So, we're going to start off with the quickened egg. Last week, Aunty Gyweneth showed up right when David and Zanna were talking and hanging out, getting more information with the book and on each other's essays. Went out of nowhere after they interacted with the egg. There was a knock on the door. They came to a white haired woman that nobody knew except for Liz. Lucy was there. She was confused, asking who this woman was. Liz was shocked to see her, but called her Aunty Gwyneth. On the way out, we remember that Zanna was saying that that was neither an auntie nor Gwyneth, which I had predicted because, again, I haven't read this series since been over 15 years. I was predicting it to be Guilana. We do get that answer in this section, so hold tight. But that's where we pick up. David had collapsed, and the last we'd seen was Mr. Bacon poking his head over the fence and asking if he could be of assistance. So, right after that, Liz and David are talking and they get in a little bit of an argument. David's saying that he can't go anywhere and he doesn't want to live with Mr. Bacon, but Liz says that she'll take off a couple weeks' rent that he owes already. And my first thought on that was that's kind of dude. This girl's already letting you stay there for the past couple weeks without being pushy on, but you got it worked out. So it works. Mr. Bacon's kind of an, but when we get into Mr. Bacon's room itself, it's actually not so bad. Liz tells David that Bacon was actually the one who offered and said that you'll just have to follow his rules.
Sounds like a serial killer.
Mr. Bacon's mysterious. There's still no contact with the publisher, Liz and Lucy. Everyone that's around David asks because they know. He just says that he left a voicemail. Nobody was there yet.
That's a lie.
There's no lies. Lucy can't find Spiky in the back. We do know that that's the albino hedgehog that was coming through. And that night, David is dreaming of Gretel, saying that Gretel was asking him to leave and that that's their space. During this whole conversation, they just come to terms that David's going to be staying over there. And David goes into the room to start packing and starts dropping some eaves. For this next two chapters, which I thought was crazy for the amount of time, this guy gets to sit in the room and peek through the door crack and listen to what I'm going to call an exponential or an exposition dump. So we get a lot of lore in this. David is kind of peeking around and packing. He finds Bonington under the bed and he's carrying the cat over his shoulder. He's about to head out, and that's when he starts hearing the conversation. Auntie Gwyneth is talking to Liz about how there hasn't been something of this magnitude in years, and that something's going to be happening before the full moon. She asks Liz how she's getting so much of this spark, and she keeps saying that spark, ama, aura. These words are all kind of leading to the same thing, just whatever is powering these dragons and giving them magic.
Their soul.
Their soul, life essence. I mean, that's essentially, yeah, the fire tears coming from within.
Yeah.
But Auntie Gwyneth is also going on saying that she was brought here by a wishing dragon. Liz thinks that this is impossible because Lucy is not experienced enough to make a real dragon yet, and David doesn't have the knowledge to um, ask the right questions for what they're looking for. Gwyneth nonetheless says that David is asking about the fire tier and that the bear Laurel is snooping around, which is kind of interesting because the only mentions of Laurel so far have been with Bergstrom. Zane has talked a little bit about it, but this guy's come up and he's supposed to be the storyteller, the keeper of records for the Inuit people.
And she seems pretty upset that he's there, like very upset that
Auntie
he's like there at all.
Auntie Gwyneth seems upset. Period.
She's
That
calling him
he's
names though, like seal breathed and like telling him that he's like incapable of defending the tier and all this other stuff. Like she's definitely like putting him down. She's calling him trash.
right. And then another thing that I forgot to bring up with this too is when they meet Gwyneth and they see the dragon, they say that the dragon is older by the deeper color, the larger scales. Made me wonder how old Gwyneth was because they didn't really give a description other than the white hair. But later into this section, I can't quite remember when it was. It is brought up that Gretel was made by Liz's hand.
Yeah.
So if this lady is so old, why did Liz make her a dragon? We come to find out that they're not even related. There's just more by, like this was a friend of a friend or friend of my mom's, and that's Auntie,
It makes
whatever.
me feel like she's the hag from the old witch story.
Yeah, yeah.
Like she's the one that was refused the tier, and that the girl that ran away and gave away the tier is Liz's mom or something like that. Because like to have so much of this spark, she keeps accusing her of having and asking her why she has it, which she says in the book, she's explained that she doesn't know why she has so much. It's got to be because she's a direct descendant of that person, either like very close and she's old, like super old.
Yeah, that lady, she has too much information, and she's also saying that she was called specifically and doesn't know what kind of role she's going to present in this whole thing.
She doesn't know why she's there at all. She was called by the wishing dragon.
Yeah, called by the wishing dragon and by the egg, actually. I did forget to mention that.
They also said though that this is gonna be the first boy in 900 years.
Yeah, and
Why do
then
they know that?
and then they were saying that the boy was Gawain. So that made me wonder if it's going to be a female, you get the human. If it's a boy, is it going to be a full-on dragon?
Reborn, and they haven't had a real dragon to reincarnate and be the rekeeper of the tier in essence
Yeah.
in 900 years.
But then it was weird because later in the conversation, she was saying that the tail would disappear and the eyes would be oval and amber for a long time, but eventually go to normal too.
But that he'd also be feared. But how is she having a baby? How is she having a
That's
dragon
what
baby? She called her broody, which is like having a bunch of different like
yeah,
chickens
like
like will
I
hoard
was going to
eggs.
say brooding on
So
a
she's
nest.
but she's hoarding eggs. You can tell. They talk about that when he goes into the dungeon in the first book and in the second book, that there's a lot of eggs on the shelf. And that's what Zanna was driven to, was the amount of different eggs on the shelf, and she touched one.
Yeah, that's actually a good point too. That Auntie Gwyneth is telling Liz that Zanna has the quickening power.
What is that? Why?
Yeah, why is that? Xana seemed to be just this random person. Yeah, she's got a lot of knowledge. Um, but it's just how did she end up out of everyone in this entire town happen to be the person with this power that showed up at the same time
Was she
as
also
Laurel?
called by somebody? Like maybe Laurel called her or something else? Or like
Yeah, some kind of divine intervention.
but
Well,
also, in that same conversation with Auntie Gwyneth, she says that she had her dragon go into the den and she subdued her little dragon with a door.
yeah, the
Why
scary
is
dragon.
her dragon stronger than Liz's dragon if Liz made it? Because she mentioned too, Auntie Gwyneth in the very beginning of that chapter, that her dragon's been doing weird things, and Liz says her alma was perfect before she left this house. Whatever you did with her after you left is your business.
That's what I was gonna say. She said that her alma was untainted,
Mm-hmm.
and then whatever Gualana had been up to has changed her to this. So
Makes me think even more that she's the hag.
yeah, I don't think, even though this dragon is acting weird, I don't get sinister vibes from the dragon.
I get like upset because my master's evil, making me do bad things kind of
Yeah,
vibe.
yeah, I was
Like
gonna
I was a
say.
good dragon before I left, and I've been told to do bad things, and I can't say no.
But then, so with the dragon being described as looking older because of the darker shade and the larger size, dragons don't grow their clay. They're little statues. So
But does she look older because she's like worn down, like a blue collar construction worker looking 90 at 40?
big old
You
limp
know?
and hunchback.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Maybe she's seen some stuff, man. Maybe she's like a veteran, you know?
especially if she's living there with all of the dragon lore. I mean, that's a good question. Where does this lady live when she's not called upon?
Does she just exist in the ether? She
Yeah, just
just
a
hang out?
mental being out there in space. So they're having this big old conversation, and uh, Gwyneth and Liz get interrupted by a noise outside. This whole time, Lucy is outside looking for Spiky out in the garden, and David doesn't want to get caught, so he starts packing really quick, just a backpack. And then he doesn't even end up taking the backpack. Starts getting scared. He packs up Gadzooks in one of his jackets and then climbs out the window.
He was scared
Uh,
for Kazook's life, man. He thought he was gonna get broken.
yeah, which is funny because then he does have Grace and Grafe now, and he looks straight at Grace and says maybe next time. So
What's going on with that? Like,
I
why do we still have Grace? Is she coming back? Are we still dating?
yeah, so especially later in this section in the next chapters, well, I'll talk about it more when we get there. But he just needs to cut off because the way that I see it is you guys had a cute relationship, but you're 20 or 21 at this point now because it's been a couple months. Who knows when his birthday is? Uh,
She pulled an Eric Foreman, dog. She went, "Hey, I'm leaving to Africa later."
right, right.
What am I
Well,
supposed to do
and
about
that's what
that?
I'm saying. You guys are young. It wasn't that much of a relationship, and it's a big career move. Like I would be more disappointed in Sophie if she didn't go,
Absolutely,
but I think holding on to that is going to cause more. It's already causing more drama than it needed to be,
absolutely.
because now David's got from the description of Liz, Liz is the one that brings it up, calls her a woman with a figure.
A good figure, yeah.
Yeah,
And says, "Don't pretend you haven't looked, David."
yeah, and you know what? It's actually kind of crazy that this author is writing this for this young of an audience because there's another section. I'm just going to talk about it now when they're in the library gardens talking, and they're saying that they're going through and she's wearing a fishnet jacket type thing, but it's raining, so it's kind of cold. But at the end of the interaction, she's getting up and she's like, "How does my butt look, David? Is it wet?" And then it goes on to say something about like, "Oh, she looked hot," and I was like, "Dude, in a book for like 8 or 9 year
11-year-olds,
olds,
bro, chill
yeah,
out.
holy
You should be saying, "She looked nice today with
yeah,
her
I
nice
actually,
hair."
I'll get to my notes and read it, but it's something about like if I had a thick bad mommy or
Goth girl,
goth mommy
yeah.
telling me to kiss her in the rain, I would have folded too. So like, no blame, man.
No
No
shame, brother.
blame. But like, still, cut it off with Sophie.
Dude,
Just
that
make it easy.
relationship's not stable. She obviously picked the job over you because her job's more important, and you shouldn't be hanging on to that. She's not talking to you, bro. There's no like texting
That's the other thing. Yeah, this is supposed to be set, I'm guessing, in either the late 90s or early 2000s. So you're gonna have to talk on a landline. I mean,
or
we get
send a
that.
letter, dog.
We get that in the later section, in the later chapters with when he's at Henry's. Okay, so let's just actually get to that because we're in that chapter anyway. We're at chapter 15, a surprise at Henry's. So after David hops out of the window, he hops through the backyard, gets into Ben Henry's backyard, and Mr. Bacon's just doing some random shit inside of his house. And David starts knocking on the window, "Hey, let me in." And it's raining again, just like it always is.
Because
But
they're in England.
yeah, yeah, exactly, because we're in England, Massachusetts, or Massachusetts, England, however the hell you say that. But so Mr. Bacon comes, answers the door, is asking him, he's calling him boy. He says boy a lot, and
Oh, Boston.
it gets yeah, Boston, Massachusetts. It gets kind of annoying how many times Mr. Bacon just says boy. It's like sounds he
Oh,
wants him to be hateable or not hateable, but dislikable. But what's interesting is the more and more I learn about Mr. Bacon, I just makes me want to learn more because he's connected in this and somehow just happened to be Miss Liz Pennykettle's neighbor all of these years.
But he knows something.
He knows something, and his lineage comes from a polar explorer in this specific area that originates with dragon lore and bear protector Inuit people. So,
Laurel, dog,
yeah,
Laurel. We're talking about the same ice bear. He shouldn't have melted, by the way. That was a design flaw. If he's a cool bear, if he's a spirit bear, he should have withstanded the rain, and that would have been like, oh damn, bro.
the way that I always saw that was when it started raining and then it took bear form, it was his kind of like his spirit being
That's what
there.
I'm saying. Like, it should have rained. He should have took bear form, and then it should have stayed that way instead of melting into a pile.
Mm.
Because, like, if he's supposed to be this energy that's there, that even Aunty Gyweneth can smell, apparently.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a
Well, and
pile.
David could smell it too, but he was just putting it up to his
He's
imagination.
putting up to Bonington.
Yeah, which now I'm starting to get irritated with David doing that because now he's been listening to these conversations and these people are clearly saying that everybody's flying around and doing specific things. And now even Zanna believes him with everything.
But he seems to not be, like, all in. Still.
Right.
He's like, oh, whatever, dude. I'll think about Gazooks. I'll think about it. All right, whatever.
Yeah, and I actually noticed we didn't really get too much of Gadzooks in this one. We got
Besides
more.
him saving him, that was an upgrade. Took him
Yeah.
out of the cabinet. I forgot all of his clothes. You don't need clothes, man. You're going back there to eat. You can pick them up later.
I have a feeling I wouldn't even be going over there to eat, dude. Miss Gwyneth, fuck her.
Aunty Gwyneth.
Yeah. But so as soon as David gets into the house, Henry's a little standoffish, gives him this fat, well, I guess it's not fat, but gives him two pieces of paper stapled together,
Front back.
front and back with rules on them. And on the first page, there's already 30. So you can tell that it's just going to be.
He's nitpicking. It's random little things because he's not used to having a roommate, dog. He lives alone.
Yeah.
He's a military man. He likes it straight. He likes it simple. He likes it the way it is.
And when you get the description of what's in his house, it's understandable. He's got really nice shit. It's pristine everywhere. It's organized. You can tell that it's definitely, I have it written down, a pristine bachelor's pad. As they're talking, David asks him if there's a place to hide and then corrects himself to put Gadzooks. Henry tells him and refers to the list. You can go put him on the bedstand, but if you damage anything, you're responsible. And so David keeps on going, says he needs to make a phone call. Another rule on that, it's 25 cents a call. David calls him theft, but it is what it is. You're living somewhere else. And I say all that stuff about Henry, but realistically, like I would be more on Henry's side than on anybody else's. Like, yeah, if you're gonna come into my house, you're gonna listen to my rules, man.
Well, especially this time era, you're paying per phone call.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm not making that phone call. I'm not paying for it.
It's okay. So that's actually why I wanted to bring this up and get to this point too, because I was just going to say that with the whole Sophie thing, she's all the way in Africa. So
There's no phones.
Yeah. Not only are you already making a landline where you're paying by the minute as well, but
There's no electricity
then
out
you're
there.
going to have to go overseas and then hope that whatever village she's in either has one or is close to one, and then that bill's going to be
Well,
ridiculous.
it's during this time period too. Absolutely no way. What is she gonna do? Borrow a pager from an elephant? That's not happening. There's nothing out there for her.
She's like the wild thornberry.
That's what I'm saying. She's living in the middle of nowhere in a hut looking at elephants. That's what we understand. She's running a research group. That's what they do. They live in huts.
Yeah.
They gotta be out there in the bush.
Yeah.
She might be eaten by a lion, dog. You might not see her ever again.
That would be a terrible way. I
But
mean,
like, for real though. Stop. Get rid of her. Lucy's goodbye. She was nice when she was here. Very, very nice girl. Goodbye. Not Lucy. Sophie.
Sophie. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, knowing what happens later on into the series, I feel like she's a very forgot about character.
Side piece character.
And then when she's finally brought back up, it's one of those things of like, I feel like the author was just like, oh yeah, kind of wrote himself into a corner.
It's been way longer than 8 months. Holy damn.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, shit, I need to do something here. And then he, did a little, we'll get to it,
Yeah.
we'll get to it. But yeah,
It's down the road.
So I have some more interesting thoughts on Sophie when we get there, but that's what I agree. Just put her to the side, dude. She serves no purpose for the next 4 books.
She was there for the squirrels. We're done with the squirrels.
I could not have said it better.
The next chapter's the Library Gardens. You know what we don't talk about? Any squirrels.
Yeah.
Not a goddamn squirrel. Actually, never
one
mind.
came up, but
We
they
didn't fix it on it.
you didn't, yeah, exactly. Just said that that's what it was, and then there was one little one-liner joke, and then they moved on. Yeah, they didn't make any fuss about it.
It's like seeing a bird and be like, "Ah, cool bird." That's it.
Bird, bird. So David is trying to make this call. He gets Xana's voicemail, and so he asks Bacon if there's a computer, maybe he can email her and she'll be online. And Henry leads him upstairs to his study, and in the study there's tons of, it's almost like a museum. There's artifacts all around. There's vintage globes, a
Ships and bottles.
compass, ships and bottles. On one of the walls there's a fat poster of a polar bear,
Laurel.
which we believe to be Laurel because David stares at it and gets the same feeling that he did from his dreams
The
and
hair's
interacting.
raised.
And Mr. Bacon goes on to tell about his family that is in there, that this photograph was of a photographer on Hella Glacier back in 1913. And then he goes on to tell this whole story about this, I forget if he was just an explorer or it must have been the photographer.
With receipts, though, he has like the documentation to back up this whole story. It's not just a word of mouth story. He's got it written down in a book for like available to him immediately
With pictures.
with
With
pictures
pictures and dates.
and names.
And names.
Names,
Names too.
Diego.
That's what I was going to bring up. I
Push
actually
me in,
have it
Mason.
here. And so we don't get a name just yet, right? Mr. Bacon's talking about this guy and says how this bear kind of not necessarily trapped this guy, but kind of cornered him. And the only way he could get away was by putting this watch on the glass because it made a noise when you opened it. And then the bear got a little distracted. The guy was able to get away, and they tried to go back later to find it, couldn't find it. And then Mr. Bacon shows him a picture of this guy, and David says it looks exactly like Mr. Bergstrom.
And you know what Bergstrom has, dog? A compass clock thing that makes noise that saved his life from a bear.
Which he brought up and said that he would tell him that story. So I to me this is 100% the puzzle pieces fit.
It's all
That's
coming together.
Bergstrom. And then David asks that. He's like, "Who is this?" And Henry shows him the bottom. I can't remember what corner it was, but it was one of the corners of the pages, and it said Dr. Bergstrom. And so, with that being said, that actually brings us to the end of that chapter. And we've already said it a few times now, but really makes you think about Mr. Bacon. I want to know what happened to his family bloodline to go from family bloodline. Maybe it's familial trauma that he's no longer adventurous to, because to me, for a relative to go from a polar explorer to now a librarian who doesn't go anywhere.
I mean, he's retired from the army, though. Who says that when he was in the army, he wasn't like in the navy and he was in the polar kind of area? So maybe he did do that, and he's retired.
That's
Maybe the
actually,
Bears have it under control, man. He went up there to check on it. It was his job to be like, "Y'all good? All right, peace," and just he
you
headed
think
home.
Bacon knows about the Bears?
I mean, he's got a picture of the fucking bear dog. He knows about Bergstrom. He obviously researches this stuff. It's very important to him. You think he doesn't know about the Bears? You don't think he at least knows
I think,
about
okay,
the
you're right.
about
I
the
think he knows about the Bears, but maybe not the Dragons.
well, maybe he doesn't know about the dragons, but he at least knows about the fairy tales and like the stories that get passed down. Because, I mean, if you have those kind of people in your life, you're getting the stories that are, like, say that Dr. Bergstrom, maybe it's his great grandfather, right? But the stories that his great grandfather would have gotten from like the tribesmen that he was told that he was with, that he would pass that down. And those stories would have been retold, and those stories could have, probably did involve dragons.
Well,
So maybe he knows more than he thinks. Maybe he knows more than he thinks he knows.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I think he's got,
He's got all the puzzle pieces, but none of the corners.
yeah, I think he has the puzzle pieces, but he doesn't even know it's a puzzle. I think to him it's just knowledge. He likes the knowledge. He
He
likes
thinks
to
he's building a
know.
cube, and it's a flat puzzle.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so he's not quite, well, I guess, how would I say this? I don't think he's looking for anything. I think he's so, it's kind of like
It's like hoarding screws.
Mike, no, essentially, yeah, hoarding screws. I would say more like my character in D&D. So for you guys, I don't know if I've mentioned it on here or not, but we're in a group that we try to play it monthly. Sometimes life happens and it's once every 2 months, but we play a D&D game, and I'm playing this character right now where his sole purpose is just to get information and history on the entire world because he believes that knowledge is power.
That is wrong. Your sole purpose is to carry me around on your back.
That too. I have a little goblin that helps makes tools and weapons for me, and this guy just keeps me safe because I'm weak. I'm like this magic caster who doesn't do shit.
And I'm a demented goblin.
But so that's what it makes me feel is that Henry's more after knowledge for knowledge sakes than any specific goal, but he has more knowledge that he doesn't even know about that connects. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, so that's Henry's. That brings us to the end of that chapter. And then now we're going to get to chapter 16, to the library gardens. And so right at this all going down, they're talking.
Well, we missed it. Hold on. David does get on the computer, does hit up Zanna. They're meeting at the library gardens.
Yeah,
That's why they're going there.
Yeah, that's actually it's right at the beginning of the thing. I was going to say as they're talking, it says that there's four phones that explode all over the house. So obviously Bacon's got some money.
Damn, 4 phones?
Yeah,
I got
landlines.
2 phones.
Because I can't remember at Liz's place. I don't know if there's a mention of several phones or if it's just.
Or and phone. No, there's
Well,
one
there's
phone.
one,
In
yeah,
the
for
kitchen.
sure about because I know Lucy comes up and takes the phone from him. So I'm thinking in Liz's there's only one. So Bacon's obviously got some money. I mean, if you're a bachelor, you don't have any kids or a
Well,
wife
he's a
or
real
anything.
job. Liz sells pottery.
D-
I mean,
yeah,
that's a hobby job. It's not a real job.
I guess that's true. I was
But it's
gonna,
not like a stable salary government position in the library. He's probably making
Right.
like 60K a year.
Well,
in
and
the
I was gonna
early
say, yeah, even though
2000s.
it's just a library, he probably has some money coming in from the military too.
He's got
So
super great speakers, huge TVs, clean plays,
yeah,
manicured museum. Dude's got cash.
yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. I mean, like.
And a killer
I don't have
mustache.
that much money, but I consider myself a bachelor, air quotations.
What do you think that Mr. Bacon looks like? Have you seen Hello Neighbor, that video game, the scary video game where he chases you around?
No.
Oh, dude, hold on, real quick. I picture him looking exactly like this.
I pictured him.
I picture him looking exactly like that, bro. That is Mr. Bacon
That's
to me.
hilarious. Okay, so because I'm picturing the old man from Up, but like 20 years younger. You know, like, just that's what's like a merge of those two.
If he was Disney Pixar,
Yeah,
then he would. Yeah.
exactly. That's what I'm picturing. Another guy that I'm picturing too is if you guys have seen the Aragon movie, there's a character named Sloane. He's just kind of pudgy and rolly and big, and I get that vibe
I don't
from
get
him too.
fat from him. I get kind of like dad bod, but like old Pixar, where he's like got like a super square upper body,
Yeah.
thin to the bottom.
Yeah, those guys that have only eyebrows and no eyes.
Yeah, and a huge nose and the sharpest jaw you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Put your head down, brother.
They go over this phone call. Xana and David decide to meet up at the library. Xana brings up that it's raining, and David says, basically just brushes it off and says, just bring an umbrella. We'll be fine. We need to talk in private. Xana does try to remind him that they do have class and a lecture right now, and they could just talk at school.
School's for losers.
Which, I mean, to me, I'm a man of convenience. So if there's a place that we could knock out two birds in one stone, I definitely would.
But if we're gonna two birds, one stone this thing, and I'm still not going to the lecture, why are we going there at all?
Well, but they end up going to the school anyway.
They go to the administrator. We don't know how close that is to the school.
Yeah,
It could be, you know what I'm saying? Like the library guards could be like close enough because we don't know where the library it is in like relation to the college either.
yeah, that's
We
fair.
assume it's close though because when he goes to college, he can walk to the library gardens or to the
Right,
library.
right, yeah.
So it's got to be within walking distance. So it's not a bad spot to me, especially if you're blowing off the class to begin with. You know,
That's
you don't
fair.
want to show up and be like, I'm here.
Because she was already there.
Yeah,
So,
it's like I don't want to be like I'm here, but I'm not coming.
easy,
See you later.
yeah, easy just to meet them up.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And it's private. Kind of nosy people out here, dude.
David was just talking about his conversation that he heard with Liz and Gwyneth, and just talking about how the egg is coming. Liz is going to be a mom. It's going to be a boy. And Susanna's taking it all in and saying that it's obviously connected somehow. Laurel being brought up between Gwyneth, Liz, and Bergstrom, all separately of each other without David bringing it up himself.
Well, also like us, she's confused at what the quickening is and why she has it.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly, and what it has to do with her. And so she says that they need to go talk to Mr. Bergstrom. And then this is where it starts to come out, that part that we were talking about earlier. As they're getting up to go, she's wiping off her spot and she kind of strikes a pose and tells David to basically check her out. And as David's checking her out, he's talking about how hot she is, and even for a goth, she's got quite the figure. So I just thought it was funny that, yeah, in this book made for younger audience, we're taking a second to appreciate the goth mommies.
Goth mommies.
And then I have a couple other here too that just related to the Sophie thing. Um, oh yeah, when they went to the library gardens, I had a couple of thoughts. Okay, so when they first got there, they couldn't find a spot, and David took her to a bench where they had released the squirrels. And then my first thought is, dude, you're taking the new girl to the old girl's spot, and you're thinking about it like that's a little rough, dude.
You already made the jump, brother. Stop getting cold feet. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to me, it just feels weird to bring, like, I don't
Well,
know.
she's being very forward, and he's like,
She's very
that's
forward.
what I'm saying. And he's being like, whoa, this is weird. You obviously like her. You talk about her. You dream about her. You think about her. Talk about her with other people. Lucy doesn't like it because she's like, but what about Sophie? But it's
Yeah.
like Sophie's gone. You don't understand complex adult relationships because you're 11. let's move on.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know. Um,
Thank you.
to be fair, I'm not around children very much anymore, but I don't I feel like Lucy gives me slightly younger vibes than 11. Like maybe,
9.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like 9, 10ish, which I know it's not that much of a difference, but I feel like an 11-year-old at this point is usually just not interested in what you have to say or do, period. So, yeah, that brings us to the end of the chapter. David and Zanna are on their way to go meet with Mr. Bergstrom, and that's the title of the next one, A Meeting with Dr. Bergstrom. So, as they're walking up to this big building, David's explaining that it used to be a loony bin, and as they knock on the door, well, actually, they don't even get to knock. They get up to the door. Xana and David are going back and forth on who should talk first. And David just kind of saying that she's more put together and well spoken, so she should go first. And as they're getting all ready, Xana's putting up her hair. Bergstrom just opens the door. I don't know if he sensed them and
He
just
felt the
did it.
vibes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Because he's
Whenever
900 years old, dude. There's no way. Sorry.
whenever something like this happens, where it's either a plot point being mysteriously covered up by Liz not talking, or
And obviously knowing
something
something.
unexplained, I chalk it up to Chiron. I call him the Centaur Mentor. He's a character in the Percy Jackson series, well, mythology period, but in the Percy Jackson series, another podcast I listen to, TNO, his ongoing joke is that Chiron covers up all plot points that aren't supposed to be revealed yet. So
Mm.
obviously something was supposed to happen. They're getting something popped up, and then Chiron just comes and whispers in the ear, like, "Hey, Percy, not yet. Don't tell him."
It's
And
not time.
yeah, and so my joke is now our author Chris Lacey has hired Chiron to come and fuck up our story too. And whenever I notice it, I call that out. So I think that's Chiron the Centaur mentor part saying, "Hey, Bergstrom, go answer that door, dude."
It's time, sir.
Yeah, it's time.
Pull the lever.
Ta-da. Xana's doing all the hard work, but David is the one that asks about Laurel. And at this point, Bergstrom doesn't have a big reaction, but he gets silent, almost stoic, and his responses are very measured.
Well, and it's tell me what you know, which is like definitely like I know something, but I'm not gonna tell you more than you already know, and like I'm not gonna give you hints that you don't have.
Yeah, I got the same vibes as when so most of my friends have been super supportive and willing to read this book series. And by proxy, since I want them to, have this experience as well, I can't spoil everything. And it's hard to just keep my mouth shut. But I was getting the same vibe from Bergstrom, the same thing like, well, tell me, what do you know? What have you read? I don't want to go past that point. So I think you're exactly right. And as they're talking, they brought up Laurel. Bergstrom brings up how important that name is, and he talks about the Inuit people having, or not having the shaman that were called the Nink blah blah blah.
Something or
Editor
other.
Diego will come in and fix that. We'll call him ED. I heard it's common in men over 40, but
Was about to say.
that's a rough name to give yourself. ED here. I thought this was something I could research, and hopefully it was based in Inuit culture, and most of it is a Nanook is just a bear in their culture, but the Nanu Kapik is how you pronounce it. The only thing you can find on the internet is from the fandom, so this is something that Chris DeLacy created, which was pretty well worked, if you ask me. ED out.
Choose some hymns.
Zanna calls out Hella Glacier, and again, this makes Bergstrom get even more keen, chooses his words very carefully, and they're going back and forth. And David says he wants more of the story, but Bergstrom says, once you find another bear's name, they're going back and forth, and Bergstrom confirms that there are 9 bears that once protected all of the Arctic and its knowledge and its history.
It's a lot of bears.
I was surprised that it was just 9. What I'm guessing are these 9 are just the intelligent
They seem
ones.
to have powers.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
dragons.
So, I mean, obviously there are still Arctic. There's still polar bears and grizzly bears and brown bears all around in this time.
Brown bears are apparently the lowest. Don't be a brown bear.
But they're still prevalent, so I think you're right. It's just the magic ones that are short in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But so as Bergstrom tells him that, he also pulls out the talisman that had given David the vision of Gadzooks riding down Laurel. This time, he tells David to hold it in his right hand and shake it. When David does, he gets thrown into this big vision.
Has a seizure.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, they do when he comes out of it, he's on the floor collapsing and Xana's freaking out. But in this vision, he's thrown back in time. In this vision, he's thrown back in time, and he sees Lucy holding and playing with Graith. Graith is what does he do? He shakes out some snow, and the snow becomes the white albino hedgehog Spiky. And this is at this point, I actually have it in my notes of this is like Inception, and that there's a vision within a vision within a vision because we see first, like I said, Lucy and Graith playing, and then Graith shakes out Spiky, so there's another one, and then inside of Spiky's eyes is where David sees the next part of the story with the bears, and they don't give it a name yet. It's just this old warrior bear that is trudging through, and he's scarred up, he's battered, he's bloody.
Obviously, the war bear. He's the one that does the attacking and the hurting.
Yeah, yeah, you can tell that this guy's been through quite a lot. And so there's also a cub following behind him, and the cub is described as being pristine, absolutely fresh, uh, hasn't seen any kind of trauma, which to me makes me think, with it being described as a battle bear, I don't think this is mom, but this is probably at least protector of the herd, and the baby is maybe the next in line, the next shaman.
The successor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's just kind of showing him the way. But as these bears are walking around, the big bear drops a tooth and then smashes it into the ground, and out of that sprouts the tooth of Ragnar, which is the island that David had dreamed about previously. So David wakes up in out of his so David wakes up out of his vision. Xana's screaming, freaking out, making sure that he's okay. Bergstrom asks him what he saw and what happened. David gives him a brief description and gives him the name Ragnar. And so Bergstrom says that Gadzooks. Oh wait, no, no.
Satisfied with that. Because that's the bear's name.
Yeah, is satisfied with that. But how did they end that? I don't remember. Oh, okay. So towards the end of this, Mr. Bergstrom is talking to Xana and David and says that he wants to tell them more, but he can't with the one that opposes them, or the force that opposes them is so close.
Aunty Gwyneth, bro.
Yeah, and
She's the dark side.
he names her straight up, and he tells him that's not Aunty Gwyneth, that's Gwalana.
Which is the hag.
Yeah. So we got it confirmed, which makes me wonder again. And now we got two essentially immortal beings. So
Potentially 3. How old is Liz?
yeah, that's another good question.
How old is Lucy really, dog?
Because
11 or
I mean, we got.
1100?
I was gonna say we got an 11th birthday, but we also haven't gotten any description on them aging, like their looks. I mean, of course, it's also been only a couple of months, so you're not going to get that big of a description. But
Is she 110? Are we just dropping zeros?
yeah, I've always my thoughts were immaculate conception, and especially with this egg being quickened, it just makes me feel that even more. So I it makes me wonder how Liz got here
Mm-hmm.
because I haven't heard anything about Liz's mom. I assumed that
Mm.
Auntie Gwyneth was going to be her mom for a second, but it ended up that she's not even related to her.
Well, how about that? If it's okay, if we're calling her Auntie Gwyneth, is that her sister? Is she as old as the hag? Is she from the same family? Is the hag like
Well,
part of the true royal family from the beginning?
I'm not sure because the hag does say that Liz is a descendant from Guinevere.
She says she's her daughter. Specific.
You're right. She did say her daughter,
You said you are Guinevere's daughter.
which would put Liz to be that same age. And Auntie Gwyneth said that the ones that come around with the quickening power don't come very often.
900 years since our last boy.
From the last boy, but it makes me feel like you have to be quickened to get a child, right? So if Lucy is immaculate concepted and from clay as well, then there had to be another that had the quickening power.
Well, maybe the eggs just have their own regular gestation. You know what I'm saying? Like the quickening makes it happen faster. If Liz is that old, maybe she had an egg for like 100, 200, 300 years and it finally hatched and we have Lucy.
Do you think that's what that egg is? Is that egg that's just been hiding forever?
Well, you know the one egg that like yeah, it could have been an egg that's been hiding forever. That was like maybe because she says just a bronze, which is more. It's not clay. She calls it a bronze, and she doesn't do bronzes. She does pottery. So does that mean it's aged so long that it's become metallic in nature now, and that it's a bronze egg?
Almost fossilized.
Yeah, because when they describe it in the quickening, when David's eavesdropping, they say that the egg becomes clear and you can see a stormy swirl within it, and you see the dragon in the middle.
Actually, I think if I'm remembering this right, I remember him saying that Auntie Gwyneth wasn't even holding it; that it was almost
hovering.
floating,
Yes.
with the clouds and like under
And
it.
it had purple eyes, which the dragons have when they are alive.
And then didn't she touch it and it like rippled a different color?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Bergstrom tells them that he wants to tell them more information, but says that he can't. But their time will come where they're gonna have to protect this secret too. So,
We're just like, dog, we're so close. Please let me be part of the solution instead of part of the problem.
yeah, and
It's not Scooby Doo.
and that's what I have here is that it's Chiron. Chiron came in to say it's not your time yet, buddy.
I got 5 more books to write, boy.
Yeah, and so then this also makes me wonder. Zanna is writing this paper in the same competition as David in order to get the trip to go to
David's
the
going period. I think that paper is a guise to make him dive deeper into the information so he discovers stuff. I feel like David doesn't need to write paper period. He just needs to prove that he knows enough
Yeah.
for Bergstrom to be willing to take him to where he's going because he doesn't want to give away the secrets because he's the keeper. There's no way this guy's not 900 years old. He has the thing, and he says in this last chapter that he got it back from a shaman.
Well, okay, I have a theory. Because maybe not 900 years old, but it said in what 1913, and these books are probably early. So he's at least what I'm gonna guess is I'm gonna say at least 90 to 100 years old. Because here's my theory: it's gonna be Dr. Bergstrom was that original Bergstrom, and he went to go talk to the bear, and the bear was one of the
Keepers.
shaman,
Yeah.
right? And it was Laurel.
Mhm.
That is Laurel. But then, since he had been communicating and learning the tradition of these Inuit people for so long, they agreed to make him the next
keeper, and he
keeper.
inherited the spirit of the bear.
Yes, yes. So when he transforms, he goes to being Laurel, but it's Bergstrom. And so
Little
then
werewolf situation, some Twilight going
yeah,
on here.
yeah, essentially. So I might not be 900 Laurel. I don't know if it's
The
like a
idea of Laurel is much older than 900 years old, but
yes.
the host is
Right.
generation. But
Yes.
they have to like. I bet you because he seems to be so old and he's not aging, right? So like he seems to be in his 50s now. So he had to be like,
There's some
yeah.
magical, yeah.
But what I'm saying is that he won't start aging or die until a successor is found.
See, okay, so that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's chosen. Their successor is chosen. Yeah, I think one has to come along that has to prove himself. And to me, I mean, all roads are leading to David because he's the writer.
Yeah,
Who,
which is the storyteller.
yeah, I was gonna say, who better to be the storyteller than the person who documents everything?
He's the scribe.
And yeah, exactly, and has the histories down for it. And we've seen that David has the ability for maybe not premonition, but to uh, write reality.
Yeah, into existence a little bit. I mean, he inadvertently wished for both Laurel to start appearing and showing himself and Aunty Gyweneth to show up, which somehow benefits all the dragons. Because you have to remember, a wish has to benefit all dragons for it to come true.
Right.
So when he wished for to know about the fire tier, whatever, for his paper, all of the dragons in the whole world were like, "Yeah, bro, you should know about that." Which
Thinking about that too, with Greth doing this on this magnitude of scale to where Auntie Gwyneth got called, Laurel showed up, Liz is getting freaked out,
Zanna showed up.
Zanna showed up. It makes me wonder how powerful Lucy's gonna be because from my understanding, Gwen was already started. She did some work on Gwen, but Liz had done Gwen, and Lucy was kind of making modifications or just touching them up. But Greth was Lucy's first time making a special dragon.
And then you have to wonder too. Okay, so they said they have the spark. Does that spark start to go dimmer the older you get? The more you use it, the more dragons you make. So is Lucy's fresh
Well,
spark giving more alma
oh,
to
I
the
see what you're saying.
dragons?
Like Liz is giving out so much of
So
hers.
she has not as much left. So now when Lucy's making her first dragon, it's like much more potent because
Yeah.
Liz is teaching her how to do it correctly instead of her having to figure out and waste alma on dragons that maybe would have a tainted one or would not, would need to go back to being clay and be remade type of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I I know where some of this goes, and a lot of this is happening sooner than what I remember. There's in the third book. Well, I guess that's why it's the third book. It comes to light that we're starting here. Um, I'm just excited to actually get to the Arctic. So,
Dave is going there no matter what. He just needs to figure out enough.
oh, I guess I never said I finished saying that because Xana's obviously an important character. She's going to be big. But Xana's going to be pretty big, and if only one person is going to get this, well, I guess it didn't say one. Only one person is going to get the scholarship. Everybody has the opportunity.
But like, who's to say that he doesn't give Zana the scholarship and then pay for David to
Well,
go?
see, I thought it was going to be the opposite. I think David's going to get the scholarship because in the
Oh, rich
chapters where
boy.
Xana
Yeah,
showed
rich
up,
girl.
yeah, she's her daddy's got money, so
Yeah.
it just makes sense that she would pay to go on it anyway. Because I don't see it. I don't see a world where Xana can just sit on the sidelines
You know
now.
what we find out in these chapters too that we're going over is that David's last name is Rain because she starts calling him Rain, and
Yeah,
it rains all the goddamn
all the
time.
time. I
So
know.
like, is the rain because of him? Is his last name Rain? So wherever he goes, it rains. Seems to
It's
like.
just a cloud that's overhanging him.
Well, he's inquisitive and he can make things appear out of nowhere. I mean, he was given a dragon as like a tool, but who's to say he couldn't just do it?
Yeah. Well, okay. So that's another thing.
Like unguided, unfounded power that he didn't realize he was doing. He just like thought about something really hard and then it became
Yeah.
like true, like wishing
Liz
on a star.
Liz said that him and Gadzooks Ama
Really
were
strong.
very strong, very high. So I'm thinking, like the more you use your dragon, the more you interact, the stronger it's going to be. And
See, I watch a lot of anime, so all this makes me think of is like Naruto, like a small boy that doesn't have a lot of skill but has like an immense amount of chakra. This is just his amount.
raw
He's a ton
power.
of Ama. Yeah, he's got a ton of raw power. He just doesn't understand how to harness it correctly.
David's gonna get a tool here very soon that's gonna switch things up.
Is it gonna make him have seizures like that narwhal talisman that moves around and looks like an acid trip?
I
Or
mean, not seizures, but we're gonna get
dog,
more.
he was collapsing the floor, and the goth bad mommy was upset. So
I
like,
know, freaking out.
we if you're upset in a goth mommy, she's probably into some stuff, bro. She's probably hurting you. So
Right,
like,
so it's kind of scary if she's freaked out.
yeah, she's into like death and spiders and black, and she's afraid because you had a seizure, which is a normal response. If someone has a seizure, be afraid, but like very afraid. And she knew you were holding the talisman, so like
Right.
she
I
could have just been
wanted to see
inquisitive.
Zanna hold the talisman and see what she would
What if she
see.
quickens it and it breaks? What if she just ages things as she touches?
I mean, but then she's touched David, nothing's happening. But do you think like maybe just inanimate objects,
Or like objects tied to like the power of like the dragons?
something magical?
Yeah, because like I mean, she seemed to already be kind of like inquisitive about like mythology and that kind of stuff when you first meet her. So she has like some like underlying knowledge before you even get started with it. Like she's
It seemed
more
like
knowledgeable
almost
than
more
most.
knowledge than I would think. I'm not going to say acceptable. That sounds weird. More knowledge than you would expect anybody to have, even for being a goth. Like she was up to date on the Inuit culture's theories on the albino
Laurel.
hedgehog,
Yeah.
the dragon lore as well as bear lore. Like she knew all of that before being told.
Which are specific things that you wouldn't think are related unless you like specifically research those things. Like you would have to like look up one of those three things and get really into it to figure out the rest of it.
And then just spiraled down from there.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
just a quick hobby. It's something that you put tons of research into, like Mr. Bacon and his weird room of artifacts and things that tell stories that he doesn't know about.
Yeah, I'm excited for Bacon.
What do you think he smells
I'm
like?
excited
Do you
for
think he
Bacon.
smells good or bad?
I think he smells good, dude. I imagine walking into his house and his house smells like almost like caramely.
Caramely.
Yeah, like because he's got
Huh.
everything nice and pristine,
I
and
think it
then
smells like old people. I bet you walk into his house and it smells like a Depends diaper and
that I
like
was gonna
has like
say
apple cinnamon.
that weird. I don't know what it is, what kind of deodorant old men use once they
Baby
hit like
powder?
70, but yeah,
What?
it's that weird smell. You're just like, and
Baby powder and apple cinnamon?
you
You're
can't
like,
say anything because
cool.
it's not necessarily that it
Respect your
smells
elders.
bad. It just smells like,
It's weird.
why are you
It's
using that?
different.
Yeah. Oh man. That really brings up everything, all the notes that I have. Is there something that we didn't touch that you wanted to bring up?
No, that was really everything. I didn't even cut you off because I thought that you skipped something and you didn't.
No,
So
no, not at all. I don't have any predictions that I can give just yet, not until we start getting into the Arctic. So, do you have any predictions that you want to bring up?
we've already kind of really talked about where I
Yeah.
think David's going. I think that I agree with you. I think that he's kind of like the next successor because he is like the scribe, and that's kind of who's shown up as the scribe. And like it's kind of weird that like all of these things coincidence. Come on, dude. All of
I
these
think I
things
actually have that. There's no such thing as coincidences
all
here.
of these
Yeah.
things are slapping up like two perfectly in line. It's like playing Connect Four with a blind person. Like you're like, no matter what, I'm gonna win. I can just take theirs out and put it where I want to.
Yeah.
And that seems to be happening. So it's like either we have a really stacked main character here who's just getting super duper lucky, or the universe is really looking out for this guy and wants him to be this. Which I mean, he's a young adult. I mean, it makes sense that this would start his journey, and they wouldn't do it to him as a child, especially because like he doesn't. We don't even know about David's parents. We don't know if he comes from
Yeah, we
Arctic
haven't heard
storms.
anything about David's parents. We've gotten one mention on his buddy's dad that helped him move in the first book, in the first like paragraph of the first book.
And then they just left though. They dipped
Yeah, they dipped with nothing. So it makes me feel like David's kind of
on his
just
own.
out there too.
On his own, bro.
Yeah. So question that I'm gonna ask all the guests. We talked about it way before. I meant to bring it up today, so you had some time to think. I'm gonna kind of throw you on the spot. You can either go deep like
Oh, we
Kaylee did
talked
or
about
surface.
this.
Yeah. So everybody gets the special dragon, and if you get one, they have tools or items that pertain to their particular skill. So what do you think? Like, what color would your dragon be?
So when we talked
What's
about this, which was weird because I didn't run the second book yet, but I had picked a black bear dragon. So he was
mm,
like a large dragon, almost like an owl bear looking type,
yeah,
with wings, obviously, and then he was black. And then I had a sword and a hammer because I'm always fixing stuff and protecting stuff. So, it just kind of felt like the natural things to do. And I had green eyes, which was weird because I started reading about the dragons with the green eyes. Yeah, it was like in the first 3 chapters of the book. I
Yeah.
remember you were like, "Oh, I didn't even know. You don't even know."
Yeah, that's really good. And then they flash purple. And I think that
I
that
wanted to be
black
black with
with
the
the green
iridescent purple.
tint,
Yeah,
yeah,
with
I was
the
gonna say, and then with the purple violet eyes would look pretty intimidating. That'd be
well, especially if you know like a D&D owl bear. You know what I'm saying? Like I know
that's
it's
what I
not
my
like a
first thought was the
dragon.
D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you guys. If you have any comments that you want to add in, questions, uh that was our question. If you had your dragon, what items would it hold? The next one for appearance 2 on everybody is going to be what are you going to name your dragon? So give me that too. My email is gadzooks, the last DM at gmail.com. Have a safe flight out, hit no turbulence, and we'll see you next week.